Welcome back to another amazing episode of Rounds of the Knight's Table. I'm Jim.
I am Eric.
And today we're going to talk about Game of Thrones,
Dun, 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 dun,
Season
dun.
8, Episode 3. My brief rundown of Episode 1 and 2, if you haven't seen it, go see it. I'm not going to get into a summary. But my feelings on the episode, a little long in the tooth. I thought there were some good moments. Tormund any day of the week. They called me Giant's Bane.
Suckled me teeth for 3 months.
He should just get his own sitcom. Him and Brienne.
Oh my god. And Jamie.
Ooh, love triangle.
And Hound.
Fuck off. Episodes 1 and 2 had some good dialogue, some good moments, good reunions. Yeah. But I thought was too much for 2 episodes. I thought it could have been condensed into one longer episode. I didn't mind episode 1 ending with the reveal of him being a Targaryen, Jon Snow. But then he tells Daenerys like that. And
oh man, he tells her in the second episode, right before the big battle. I thought he was going to keep it a secret, tell Sam not to tell anyone.
Again, some good moments, but it was like, oh, get to it already. People are telling me, oh, the action's coming, the action's coming. Which brings us to this episode. The Long Night. The dead is coming.
The dead are here.
Well, Melisandre shows up. Lights the Dothraki's swords on fire for what? Cinematic value, because them shits right off, wiped out.
Go out one by one. All of them.
Which is a good visual. I don't mind that. And then eventually she comes back and lights the trench. And then they just start piling bodies on it like 1, 2, 3.
And build a bridge.
Let's talk about the bad.
Let's do that.
This episode was choppy as shit and dark as hell. And then the audacity, the balls on this cinematographer to tell everyone that their fucking brightness is turned down or that their shit ain't set right. Bro.
They don't know how to calibrate their TV drive.
For your show? You're telling me that everyone else gets it wrong, but you got it right. From a story standpoint, nobody significant died. Jorah Mormont died, but he died the way he wanted to die. He died next to Khaleesi. I have always loved you, Khaleesi.
I loved though when he fell. I'm hurt.
Lyanna Mormont. What's that?
I mean, we're talking about the bad. How you bringing her up?
She's
that
great.
She died at all?
I love her. She's great. I don't know. That girl hasn't aged in 2 years. Giant White comes in and just fucking smacks the shit out of her. And she goes flying. That should have been it.
Should have been.
She gets a redeeming moment, stabs the giant in the eye with the dragon glass.
He picks her up and starts crushing her, blood coming out of her mouth. And I'm like, stab it in the face, stab it in the face. She stabs him in the eye. Oh my god, she did it.
That's just gratuitous. Nobody vital to this show died. Theon? Ooh. He's on borrowed time. Jorah is on borrowed time. There ain't no way. That castle was overrun with dead. There ain't no way that nobody in that crypt died. And how often in Game of Thrones do people get to say goodbye? They don't. That's the beautiful... That's what makes Game of Thrones Game of Thrones. If that was the case, like, you kind of expected Ned Stark to die, but you didn't really. If you'd never read the books or anything like that, and you were completely foreign to this show, and Ned Stark gets his head cut off, you would have thought somebody would have bailed him out. But it happened so fast that Joffrey flipped his switch because he was supposed to take the black and go to the wall. But Joffrey was like, nope, done. And you're like, oh shit, is this really going to happen? And it happens and you're like, oh my god, what did I just get into? That doesn't happen. If this was written by these TV show writers then, Ned Stark would have hand-delivered, handwritten notes to his family, telegraphed it, and everyone would have got to say goodbye. The beauty of Game of Thrones. And another thing, the Dothraki and the Unsullied on the front line. Bro, you putting all the people of color on there.
So you bring up the Unsullied.
But then Grey Worm doesn't die.
Exactly. When you see Grey Worm, every time he's like in the front of the line. And he's sitting there telling them, all right, get ready. Defend the castle, blah, 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 whatever. Then next time you see him, he's like 10 rows back. Like, how did he survive that? I just saw him die. And then, not even 5 minutes later, he's back in the front line. And then he's back 10 rows back. I saw him die no less than 4 or 5 times.
The biggest threat, which has been the biggest threat to the Game of Thrones, to civilization in Game of Thrones,
Day 1,
are the White Walkers. That's been established. And they get wiped out in one night. I'm also wondering if that's going to come back into play later, because it shouldn't have been that easy. If you got a starting roster of 25, I guarantee you the people in the farm system are the ones that died. That's it.
But there's a lot of people that have been saying that the Night King died way too easy.
He did.
That Arya Stark is just a Mary Sue. She has been training since season 1 with Syrio Forel. She was trained for this.
Arya kills the Night King as he's getting ready to cut Bran in half.
Gangster.
You see a wall of dead. The generals, Night King here. He's reaching for his sword in slow motion.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you see like a little wind hit one of the general's hair. And you see Arya come from out of nowhere off the top rope. And Night King spins around, catches her. She drops the knife and then catches it with the other hand and stabs him. And I jumped out of my seat because I was like, oh shit, that's gangsta. But then I think about it. Isn't that supposed to be the battle between Jon Snow and the Night King?
See, that's what
that's the writer in me. Well, that's the problem I have, is because seasons ago, in an episode shot much better than this, when the White Walkers invade where the wildlings are, when Jon Snow's there, when Jon Snow's there to get them out, and they fucking wipe off everybody, and Jon Snow is floating down the boat, and the Night King stands on the bank like this, and everyone rises. I was like, God, that square off is going to be amazing. Jon Snow was too busy ducking and diving. He could have taken that flame. If he would have stood up and just taken the flame and walked out of it, I would have been like, whoa, shit, what? That's gangsta. I also thought at one point the Night King was going to kneel to Bran.
If you rewatch that part, you can kind of see where he maybe sees something while he's trying to hide from Viserion.
Yeah.
And I think he's hiding because he doesn't know fire doesn't hurt him. Fires hurt some Targaryens, not the true dragons.
But
so he doesn't know any better.
Fucking Jon goddamn Snow.
Look, he stood up in front of a dragon that was about to breathe him dead,
but
as far as he knew.
But it didn't.
You watch it back. It looks like he's looking and sees something, and he stands up. And that moment he yells at Viserion? If you listen, he's yelling, go. He's yelling to Arya to go. He's distracting Viserion so she can get by and she can finish off the Night King. Jon was brought back for a purpose, so his purpose is probably still out there. I think a possibility of that purpose could be to kill Dany.
She's kind of like the Mad King right now.
Well, she's not quite there. She's still got compassion about her. That compassion might have just died with Jorah. She still has all these feelings for Jon, but he just dropped that bombshell on her. And the first thing she thinks about
the throne,
is the throne.
The throne.
Every time he turns down a position, they give him a higher
job promotion. The tension. It was very tense.
Especially like in the beginning, when you see Brienne on the ground screaming. I thought she was already a goner.
One of the badass moments is when the Night King is walking to go get Bran, and Jon Snow is running full speed at him, and he stops and turns his neck and then faces him and raises the dead that is all around him. That was pure badassery, I think. Yeah. I have to see the long game, but for the moment, it was very tense and enjoyable that way, but very uncharacteristic of Game of Thrones, and I think that's because they don't have George R.R. Martin's source material, and we're at the point, it's season 8, this should be balls to the wall. And I'm worried the next episode, the previews kind of look like it's a fluffy. I don't have any expectations for what I think is going to happen, because what I thought was going to happen has been shot to shit, has been shattered to fucking glass. It's done. This show is ultimately a Game of Thrones.
About Theon dying the way he did. Well, I'm glad that he got to die that death, that he died a Stark. Fought for Bran, who he stole this home from. And Bran said, you're a good man, Theon. Thank you.
Which, not for nothing, though, if Theon would have just hung back and let the Night King come to him, Arya might have been there in time to wipe him out. I think something's up with Bran. Because obviously he's on that next level of weird shit. There's got to be something deeply rooted in an evil scheme. Because that's what makes the Game of Thrones the Game of Thrones. I don't know who's going to sit on the throne at the end. Obviously, the story's about Jon Snow. and Daenerys, because that's who it's...
Song of Ice and Fire.
Yes, but
Jon is
that.
Fire.
So, I mean, but again, I think Daenerys is bad.
I don't think she is totally, but I think she's on her way there.
I don't think she sits on the throne at the end. And I don't think Jon Snow cares to sit on the throne at the end. So there's that. Cersei can't live.
No, Jaime's going to kill her.
the king and queen slayer. I think the Hound is going to die killing the Mountain.
To save Arya.
Since
Jaime didn't die in this episode, in this battle, he's going to be the one to kill Cersei.
But I'm interested to see where it goes. There's only 3 episodes remaining. If you like this episode of Game of Thrones, or I want to know what you thought of the whole season so far, leave us a message down in the comments. If you like this video, hit that like. Do it anyway. I don't care. You watched it, hit the like. Press that subscribe. And we will check you out next time. Only on Rounds of the Knight's Table.